When rockstar Zack Mercer walked onto that festival stage, he had no idea his childhood love was watching from the wings. 12 years of silence, broken in one heart-stopping moment. What happens when the boy who left for fame comes face to face with the girl he never forgot? And hey, we're so close to hitting 500 subscribers. Help us get there and drop a comment telling us where you're listening from right now. The festival grounds buzzed with electricity as thousands of fans pressed against the barriers, their phones held high, capturing every second of what promised to be the music event of the summer. Jenna Hayes stood backstage, her heart hammering against her ribcage in a rhythm that had nothing to do with the bass thundering from the main stage. She smoothed down her black leather skirt, the material hugging her curves in a way that made her feel both powerful and vulnerable. Her red crop top left just enough to the imagination, and her long dark hair cascaded over her shoulders in waves that caught the stage lights like silk. She shouldn't be here. That's what her rational mind kept screaming. But when Marcus, the tour manager and an old friend from college, had called 2 days ago, saying Zack's management team desperately needed a last-minute photographer for the festival circuit, something in her chest had cracked open. It had been 12 years since she'd last seen Zack Mercer, 12 years since the boy with the guitar and impossible dreams had left their small Pennsylvania town for Los Angeles, chasing stardom with nothing but $300 and a beat-up van. Now, Zack Mercer was a household name, his face plastered on magazine covers, his songs topping charts worldwide, his concerts selling out in minutes. The boy she'd loved with every fiber of her teenage heart had become the man millions of women fantasized about. And here she was, camera in hand, pretending her knees weren't shaking at the thought of seeing him again. "Jenna, there you are." Marcus jogged over, his headset slightly askew, clipboard clutched in one hand. "Listen, Zack's set is in 20. I need you front stage right. We want candid shots, real energy, you know. None of that posed corporate stuff." Jenna nodded, adjusting the camera strap across her shoulder. "Got it. Does he know I'm here?" Marcus paused, something flickering across his expression. "Honestly, I haven't had a chance to mention it. You know how it is before a show. He's in the zone." "The zone?" "Right. Because Rockstar's preparing to perform for 50,000 people had time to care about photographers from their past." Jenna swallowed the knot in her throat and forced a professional smile. "No problem. I'll stay out of his way." As Marcus rushed off to handle another crisis, Jenna made her way through the maze of equipment cases and bustling crew members toward her assigned position. The sun was setting over the Colorado mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple that would make for stunning photographs. She raised her camera, testing angles, trying to focus on anything except the fact that in less than 20 minutes she'd see him again. The crowd's roar suddenly intensified, a wave of sound that made the ground vibrate. Jenna's head snapped up as the stage lights shifted, and there he was. Zack Mercer strode onto the stage like he owned not just the platform but the entire world. He was taller than she remembered, his frame filled out with muscle that spoke of hours in the gym between tour dates. His arms were covered in intricate tattoos that disappeared beneath the sleeves of his vintage Metallica t-shirt, the black fabric tight enough to showcase the defined contours of his chest and shoulders. His dark hair was longer now, falling to his shoulders in that perfectly messy way that probably took his stylist an hour to achieve. Dark jeans hung low on his hips, and his presence radiated that dangerous edge that had always made her mother warn her to stay away from boys like him. But it was his face that stopped her breath. Sharp jawline shadowed with deliberate stubble, full lips curved in a cocky smile that promised trouble, and those eyes. Even from this distance, she could see the intensity in them. The same fire that had burned there when he was 17 and playing dive bars for beer money. He grabbed the microphone, and his voice, rough and seductive, rolled over the crowd like honey laced with whiskey. Colorado, are you ready to lose your minds tonight? The response was deafening. Jenna raised her camera with shaking hands and started shooting. Through the lens, she could study him without the risk of being caught staring. Every movement was calculated yet natural, the way he worked the stage with the confidence of someone who'd been doing this their entire life. He moved like a predator, all coiled energy and raw sex appeal, and the crowd ate it up. The band launched into their opening number, a hard-driving rock anthem that had the entire festival jumping in unison. Jenna found herself swaying to the rhythm as she worked, capturing Zack mid-jump, his guitar slung low, sweat already beginning to dampen his hair. She photographed the way his fingers moved across the strings with practiced precision, the veins in his forearms standing out as he played. She captured the moment he threw his head back, eyes closed, completely lost in the music. It was beautiful and heartbreaking all at once. Between songs, Zack prowled the stage, interacting with fans in the front row, his megawatt smile never faltering. "You guys having a good time?" he called out, and the response was overwhelming. "Good, because we're just getting started. This next one's called Ghosts of Us, and it's about the things we can't let go of, no matter how hard we try." Jenna's camera nearly slipped from her hands. That song. She knew that song. It had been released 3 years ago and had gone triple platinum, but she'd never been able to listen to it all the way through. The lyrics were too raw, too familiar. It spoke of small-town love and big-city dreams, of promises made under stars that couldn't compete with stadium lights, of a girl with dark eyes who still haunted his dreams. She'd told herself it wasn't about her. Zack had probably had dozens of girlfriends since leaving Pennsylvania, but as the opening chords filled the air and his voice turned softer, almost vulnerable, something in her chest cracked a little wider. "She had fire in her soul and dreams in her eyes," he sang, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. "Told me to chase the stars while she stayed behind, said she'd wait forever, said she'd be fine, but forever's just another word for goodbye." The crowd swayed, thousands of lighters and phone flashlights creating a sea of stars. Jenna kept shooting, but her vision blurred slightly. She blinked hard, refusing to let emotion compromise her work. This was a job, just a job. Halfway through the set, Zack paused for water, and his eyes scanned the side stage area. Jenna ducked behind a speaker stack on instinct, then immediately felt ridiculous. She was 30 years old, not 16. She could handle seeing an ex, even if that ex had become one of the biggest rock stars in the world. "All right, Colorado." Zack's voice had dropped to that intimate tone that made it feel like he was speaking directly to each person individually. "We're going to slow things down for a minute. This next song is new. Most of you haven't heard it yet. It's called Second Chances, and it's about what happens when the universe gives you another shot at something you thought you'd lost forever." The opening notes were gentle, almost acoustic, a stark contrast to the hard rock that had preceded it. Jenna found herself drawn out from behind the speaker, her camera forgotten for a moment as she listened. 12 years and 1,000 miles couldn't make me forget your face." Zack sang, his voice raw with emotion. "Every woman, every city, every stage, they all disappeared without a trace. Because you were the real thing, the only thing that mattered. Everything else was just noise, just time scattered." Jenna's breath caught. No. He couldn't be singing about her. It was coincidence. 12 years was probably just a number that fit the rhyme scheme. But then Zack's eyes swept the side stage again, and this time they locked on her. For a moment that felt like an eternity, everything else fell away. The crowd, the music, the noise, all of it faded into background static. His eyes widened, and he stumbled over the next lyric, catching himself quickly, but not before she saw the flash of complete shock cross his face. He knew. He'd seen her. Jenna's instinct was to run, but her feet felt rooted to the ground. Zack recovered, turning back to the crowd, but she could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his grip on the microphone had tightened. He finished the song, but his eyes kept darting to the side stage, searching for her. The moment the final chord rang out, Zack quickly addressed the crowd. "You guys are incredible. Give it up for the band." He gestured to his musicians, using the distraction to set down his guitar and stride off stage. Straight toward her, Jenna's heart threatened to explode from her chest. He was moving through the backstage chaos, like a man on a mission, and that mission was apparently her. Crew members tried to stop him with questions and clipboards, but he brushed past them all, his eyes never leaving her face. When he was finally standing in front of her, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes, close enough to smell his cologne mixed with sweat, close enough that the heat radiating from his body made her skin tingle, he just stared at her. "Jenna," he finally said, and her name in his voice, deeper and rougher than she remembered, sent shivers down her spine. "Jenna Hayes, tell me I'm not hallucinating from dehydration." She tried to laugh, but it came out shaky. "Hi, Zack." "Hi?" He ran a hand through his damp hair, looking almost boyish despite the tattoos and the Rockstar persona. "I haven't seen you in 12 years, and all you've got is hi." Before she could respond, Marcus appeared, looking frazzled. "Zack, man, you've got 3 more songs and then the encore. What are you doing?" Zack didn't take his eyes off Jenna. "Give me 2 minutes." "You don't have 2 minutes. The crowd is going crazy out there." "Then give me one." The edge in Zack's voice made it clear this wasn't a request. Marcus sighed and disappeared, muttering into his headset. Zack stepped closer, and Jenna had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. God, when had he gotten so tall? Or maybe she'd just forgotten. So many details had blurred over the years, self-preservation making her push away the memories that hurt too much. "You're here," he said, and there was wonder in his voice, like he'd just seen something impossible. "You're actually here." "Why?" Marcus needed a photographer. I'm doing freelance work now, and that's not what I meant." He reached out, then seemed to catch himself, his hand falling back to his side. "Why are you really here, Jenna? You could have said no. God knows you had every right to tell Marcus to find someone else." The honest answer was too complicated, too raw to voice in a backstage corridor, with his set unfinished and dozens of people watching. So she deflected. "You should get back out there. Your fans are waiting." Something flickered in his eyes. Disappointment, maybe, or determination. "This conversation isn't over. Don't disappear on me." "I'm here to do a job, Zack. I'm not going anywhere." He studied her for a long moment, and she could practically see the wheels turning in his head. Then, without warning, he smiled. Not the stage smile, not the Rockstar grin for the cameras, but the smile she remembered from midnight conversations in his truck. The smile that had made her believe in forever when she was too young to know better. "Good," he said, "because we have 12 years to catch up on, and I plan on starting tonight." He turned and jogged back toward the stage, leaving Jenna standing there with her heart racing and her mind spinning. Through the chaos of the festival, over the roar of the crowd and the pounding of drums, one thought crystallized in her mind with terrifying clarity. She was in so much trouble. The encore ended with a blast of pyrotechnics that lit up the Colorado night sky, and the crowd's roar could probably be heard in the next state. Jenna had retreated to the media tent, her camera full of incredible shots and her nerves completely shot to hell. She was downloading the photos to her laptop when Marcus found her, looking simultaneously excited and exhausted. "Zack wants you at the after-party," he said without preamble. "Hotel rooftop, starts in an hour." Jenna didn't look up from her screen. "I should really get these edited. The magazine needs them by tomorrow morning." "Jenna." Marcus sat down across from her, his voice dropping to that serious tone that meant he was about to say something she wouldn't like. "What's going on? I thought you two were cool." We are cool. We're ancient history, practically prehistoric. Right. Which is why he cornered me after the show, asking what room you're staying in, where you're from now, if you're seeing anyone, and about 15 other questions I didn't have answers to. Her fingers froze on the keyboard. He asked if I'm seeing anyone, among other things. Look, I don't know what happened between you two back in Pennsylvania, but the guy couldn't focus during the last 3 songs. He kept looking stage right, like he was afraid you'd vanished. I've never seen him like that, and I've been on tour with him for 4 years. Jenna closed her laptop, finally meeting Marcus's eyes. It was a long time ago. We were kids. Kids who clearly meant something to each other. Marcus stood, picking up his clipboard. The party starts at 10. I'm not saying you have to go, but I think you should. Whatever happened between you two, maybe it's time to actually deal with it instead of running. He paused at the tent entrance. For what it's worth, I've never seen him smile like that. Not at any model actress or groupie. Just saying. After Marcus left, Jenna sat in the empty tent, surrounded by equipment and the distant sounds of the festival winding down. She could make an excuse, claim she had too much work, that she was tired, that she needed to catch an early flight. All of which were lies, and they both knew it. The truth was scarier. The truth was that seeing Zack again had awakened something she'd spent 12 years trying to bury. That smile, the way he'd looked at her, the rawness in his voice when he'd sung that new song. It all felt too much like the boy she'd loved, wrapped up in the body and life of a man she didn't know. But maybe Marcus was right. Maybe it was time to stop running. 2 hours later, Jenna stepped out of the elevator onto the hotel rooftop, and her breath caught. String lights crisscrossed overhead, creating a canopy of stars that competed with the real ones visible in the clear mountain sky. The party was smaller than she'd expected. Maybe 40 people, mostly band members, crew, and a few VIPs. Music played at a reasonable volume, and the vibe was more relaxed celebration than wild Rockstar excess. She spotted Zack immediately. He was standing near the edge of the rooftop, still in his concert clothes, but with a leather jacket thrown over the t-shirt. He was talking to someone, but his eyes were scanning the crowd, and when they landed on her, everything else seemed to fall away. He excused himself from his conversation and started toward her, moving with that same purposeful stride that had carried him across the stage. Jenna's heart kicked into overdrive. In the softer lighting up here, without thousands of fans screaming and cameras flashing, he looked more like the boy she'd known, or maybe that was just wishful thinking. "You came," he said when he reached her, and the relief in his voice was palpable. "I wasn't sure you would. Marcus can be very persuasive. Remind me to give him a raise." Zack gestured to a quieter corner of the rooftop, away from the main crowd. "Can we talk? Really talk?" Jenna nodded, not trusting her voice. They walked to a section where comfortable lounge chairs were arranged around a fire pit, the flames dancing in the gentle breeze. Zack grabbed 2 beers from a nearby cooler and handed her one before settling into the chair next to hers. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence stretched, filled with 12 years of unspoken words and unanswered questions. Finally, Zack broke it. "You look incredible, by the way. I should have said that earlier, but I was in shock." Jenna took a sip of beer to hide her smile. "You don't look so bad yourself. The whole Rockstar thing suits you." "Yeah, well, the tattoos and muscles help sell the image." He flexed his arm, grinning, and for a second she saw the goofball she'd fallen for at 17. "But seriously, Jenna, you're even more beautiful than I remembered, and I remembered a lot." Heat crept up her neck. "Zack, I know too much too fast." He set down his beer and leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his expression turning serious. "I need to know something. Why did you stop answering my calls?" The question hit her like a physical blow. She'd known it was coming, had rehearsed answers in her mind during the drive to the festival. But now that the moment was here, all those practice words evaporated. You really want to do this now? She asked softly. I've wanted to do this for 12 years. I think I've waited long enough. Jenna stared into the fire, watching the flames twist and curl. You left, Zack. You chose LA, chose the music, chose all of this. She gestured around them. I couldn't be the girl back home waiting by the phone, watching you live your dream while mine got smaller and smaller. I asked you to come with me, multiple times. I was 18. The words burst out louder than she'd intended, and a few people glanced their way. She lowered her voice. I was 18 years old with a full scholarship to Penn State. My parents had sacrificed everything for that. I couldn't just throw it away to follow you to LA with no plan, no safety net, nothing but hope and your dreams. They were our dreams, Zack said quietly, or at least I thought they were. No. Jenna shook her head, finally looking at him. They were your dreams, Zack, and they were beautiful dreams. Look at what you've accomplished, but they weren't mine. I wanted to be a photographer. Yes, but I also wanted stability. I wanted to finish school, to have a plan, to build something steady. And did you? Build something steady? The question held no malice, just genuine curiosity. Jenna sighed. I got my degree. Worked for a newspaper in Philadelphia for 8 years. It was steady, all right, steady and suffocating. I quit 6 months ago to do freelance work. Turns out, I'm not as different from you as I thought. I just took the long way around. Her smile tugged at Zack's lips. The long way around, huh? That's very poetic of you. Shut up. But she was smiling too, and some of the tension between them eased. Your turn. Tell me about all this. The stadiums, the fame, the tattoos. When did you become so jacked? He grinned, flexing again. About 5 years ago. Turns out stage presence matters, and looking like you could win a fight makes the bad boy image more believable. The bad image image, Jenna repeated, laughing. You were the guy who cried during Titanic. Hey, that was one time, and Jack deserved better. But he was laughing too, and it felt so natural, so easy, like no time had passed at all. Then his expression softened. I wrote about you, you know. A lot. Ghosts of us, empty highways, and second chances. The label thinks I'm this tortured artist drawing from 1,000 different experiences, but really, I've been writing about the same girl for 12 years. Jenna's breath caught. Zack, don't. Don't what? Don't tell you the truth? He reached over, his hand covering hers where it rested on the armrest. His touch was warm, calloused from guitar strings, and it sent electricity shooting up her arm. I've spent 12 years trying to forget you, Jenna. Tried dating actresses, models, other musicians. Tried losing myself in the music, the tours, the chaos. Nothing worked. And then you show up at my festival, looking like every dream I've ever had, and all those feelings I tried to bury just came roaring back. This is crazy, Jenna whispered, but she didn't pull her hand away. We don't even know each other anymore. You're a rock star. I'm a freelance photographer trying to make rent. We live in different worlds. So we'll learn. We'll take it slow, get to know who we are now. His thumb traced circles on her palm, and she had to fight to focus on his words. Unless you're going to tell me you don't feel anything, that seeing me again was just a trip down memory lane with no emotional baggage attached. She wanted to lie. It would be safer, easier, smarter to pretend her heart wasn't racing, that his touch wasn't making her skin burn, that the thought of walking away from him again didn't feel like tearing herself in half. But she'd never been good at lying to Zack. I feel something, she admitted quietly. But feeling something and acting on it are two different things. Your life is insane, Zack. Tours, fans, constant travel. Where would I even fit into that? Anywhere you want. He leaned closer, and she could smell his cologne mixed with the smoke from the fire. Come on tour with me, not as a groupie, as a photographer. We always need good photographers, and Marcus just lost his favorite one to a National Geographic contract. It's a 3-month North American tour, and I promise I'll be the perfect professional, unless you don't want me to be." The suggestion was so absurd, so impulsive, so completely Zack that Jenna found herself actually considering it. "That's insane." "Is it? You said you quit your job to go freelance. This is freelance work. Great pay, travel, building your portfolio, and maybe, just maybe, we get a second chance at something we should never have let go of in the first place." And when the tour ends, when reality sets in, and we remember why we didn't work the first time, Zack's expression turned serious, then at least we'll know we tried. "Jenna, I let you go once because I was too young and stupid to fight for what mattered. I'm not making that mistake again." He stood, pulling her to her feet with him, and suddenly they were inches apart. "Tell me you haven't thought about us, about what might have been." "Of course I have," she breathed, "but thinking about what might have been and actually doing something about it are—" He kissed her. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was 12 years of longing and regret and hope, all poured into one moment. His hands cupped her face, tilting her head back as his lips moved against hers with a hunger that made her knees weak. Jenna's hands fisted in his leather jacket, pulling him closer, and when his tongue traced her bottom lip, she opened for him without hesitation. The world spun away. The party, the people, the logical reasons why this was a terrible idea. All of it ceased to exist. There was only Zack, the taste of beer and mint on his tongue, the solid warmth of his body pressed against hers, the way he kissed her like she was oxygen, and he'd been drowning. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Zack rested his forehead against hers. "Tell me you felt that and still think this is a bad idea." "It's a terrible idea," Jenna said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Probably the worst idea you've ever had. So, is that a yes to the tour?" She should say no. Every rational bone in her body was screaming at her to say no, to protect her heart, to not risk everything on a second chance that might blow up in her face. But when had she ever been able to say no to Zack Mercer? "I need to think about it," she said, pulling back slightly. "This is a big decision, and I can't make it while you're kissing me like that and looking at me like I'm the only person in the world." "You are the only person in my world, Jenna. You always have been." He brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, his touch gentle. "But you're right, think about it. The tour starts in a week. We're kicking off in Seattle, then Portland, San Francisco. Marcus has all the details." "A week? Zack, that's insane. I'd need to arrange my apartment, figure out my other commitments." "I know. I'm asking for a lot. But I'm also offering everything I have." His smile was soft, vulnerable in a way his stage persona never was. "Take the time you need. Just promise me you'll really consider it, not the logical, safe choice, but what you actually want." What she wanted. When had she last done something just because she wanted to? When had she last taken a risk, followed her heart instead of her head? "I'll think about it," she promised. "Really think about it. That's all I can ask." He pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead, and the tenderness of it made her chest ache. "Come on, let me introduce you to the band. They're going to love you, and I want you to see that it's not all chaos. We're a family, and you'd fit right in." As Zack led her back toward the party, his hand warm in hers, Jenna's mind spun with possibilities and fears in equal measure. Could this really work? Could she really walk away from everything she'd built to take a chance on a love she'd thought was dead and buried? She didn't have the answer yet. But as Zack laughed at something his bassist said and squeezed her hand, pulling her into the warmth of the group, she felt something she hadn't felt in years: hope. Jenna spent the next 5 days in complete chaos. Her small Philadelphia apartment became a war zone of decision-making as she tried to figure out if following Zack on tour was brave or completely insane. She made lists, pro and con columns, called her best friend Sarah approximately 15 times until Sarah finally said, "For the love of God, just go. You've been half alive since he left. Maybe it's time to fully live." The words had struck deep. Half alive. Was that what she'd been? On day 6, Jenna found herself on a plane to Seattle with a suitcase full of camera equipment and enough anxiety to fuel a rocket ship. Zack had texted her every day since Colorado. Nothing pushy, just small messages. Photos of the view from his hotel room, a terrible joke about a roadie, a link to a song he thought she'd like. Each message felt like a small thread connecting them, weaving something new from the frayed edges of their past. The Seattle venue was an arena that could hold 15,000 people, and when Jenna arrived for sound check, she felt the magnitude of what Zack had become hit her all over again. This wasn't some bar or small festival. This was the real deal. "Jenna!" Zack's voice rang out across the empty space, and she looked up to see him jogging down from the stage, a huge smile on his face. He was wearing ripped jeans and a Guns N' Roses t-shirt, his hair pulled back in a messy bun, and he looked so happy to see her that something in her chest melted. "You came. I mean, I knew you were coming, but seeing you here, it's different." "I'm here," she confirmed, matching his smile. "Ready to work and probably regret all my life choices." "That's the spirit." He grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the stage. "Come on, I want to show you something." The stage was massive, with equipment scattered everywhere as the crew set up. Zack led her to the center, spinning her around to face the empty seats. "Close your eyes," he instructed. "Zack, I have work to do. Humor me. Close your eyes." Sighing, Jenna complied. She heard him move behind her, felt the heat of his body as he stepped close, not quite touching, but near enough that she could feel his presence. "Now." His voice was low in her ear, sending shivers down her spine. "Imagine this place full, 15,000 people, all of them here because they connected with something I created. They're screaming, singing along, living in this moment with us. It's terrifying and incredible and addictive. That's what I wanted to show you. This is my life, and I want you to be part of it." Jenna opened her eyes, staring out at the empty arena that would soon be packed with fans. "It's overwhelming." "It is," Zack agreed. He turned her to face him, his hands gentle on her shoulders. "But it's also just noise. At the end of the day, when the lights go down and the crowd goes home, it's just me. Same guy you knew in Pennsylvania, just with better abs and more tattoos." She laughed, pushing at his chest playfully. "Your ego hasn't gotten any smaller, I see. Hey, confidence is attractive. I read that in a magazine." He caught her hand against his chest, holding it there. "I'm glad you're here, Jenna. Really glad." "Me too," she admitted. "Terrified, but glad." "Good terrified or bad terrified?" "Ask me after the show." The concert that night was electric. Jenna shot from every angle, capturing Zack in his element. She photographed the way the crowd moved, like a living organism, the intimate moments between band members, the raw emotion on fans' faces. But mostly, she photographed Zack. There was something mesmerizing about watching him perform, now that she knew him, now that she understood the man behind the persona. She could see the moments when he was fully present in the music, when something in a lyric hit him differently, when he caught her eye from the stage and his smile turned from performer to personal. After the show, sweaty and energized, Zack found her in the photo area. "Well, what did you think?" "I think you're kind of a big deal," Jenna teased, but her voice was warm. "And I got some incredible shots. Your fans are amazing, Zack. The way they connect with your music, it's special." "Speaking of special," he lowered his voice, glancing around at the busy backstage area. "I know we said we'd take things slow, but there's a diner about 2 blocks from here that makes the best waffles you've ever tasted. It's 1 a.m. We're both probably running on adrenaline, and I really want to just sit with you somewhere quiet and talk. No crowds, no crew, just us. What do you say? 20 minutes later, they were sliding into a booth at a 24-hour diner that looked like it hadn't been updated since 1985. Jenna had thrown on one of Zack's hoodies over her tank top, and he'd swapped his stage clothes for a simple black t-shirt and jeans. With his hair down and a baseball cap pulled low, he could almost pass for normal. Almost. "So," Zack said after they'd ordered, 5 days on tour. "Are you regretting it yet?" "Ask me again after I've edited 3,000 photos, Jenna replied, but she was smiling. "No, actually, it's been incredible. Chaotic and exhausting, but incredible." "Good chaotic or bad chaotic?" "Definitely good." She paused as the waitress delivered their coffees. "I've been thinking about what you said, about this being your life, but also just being you. I can see both sides now. The Rockstar thing is real, but so is the guy who texts me terrible jokes at 2 in the morning. Zack grinned. "My jokes are hilarious. They're awful, and you know it." She wrapped her hands around her coffee mug, gathering courage. "I need to be honest with you about something. I'm scared, Zack. Scared of falling for you again. Scared of what happens when the tour ends. Scared that we're trying to recapture something that only existed because we were young and stupid." "We were young," Zack agreed, reaching across the table to take her hand. "But we weren't stupid. What we had was real. Maybe it wasn't sustainable at 18, but we're not 18 anymore. We're adults who've lived life, made mistakes, learned who we are. If anything, we're better equipped to make this work now than we were then. And if we're not, if we try this and it crashes and burns, then at least we'll know." His thumb traced patterns on her palm. "Jenna, I've spent 12 years wondering what if. I don't want to spend the next 12 the same way, even if it doesn't work out. Even if we discover we're completely incompatible, at least we'll have tried. At least we'll have the memories and the certainty instead of just questions." The waitress arrived with their waffles, and they fell into comfortable silence as they ate. It felt domestic and surreal all at once. Here was Zack Mercer, Rockstar, eating greasy diner food at 1 in the morning with syrup on his chin, looking at her like she was the most interesting thing in the world. "Tell me about your life," Zack said eventually. "The last 12 years, I know the broad strokes from Marcus, but I want the details. What made you laugh? What made you cry? What kept you up at night?" So she told him about the newspaper job that had felt safe but soul-crushing, about the relationships that had never quite fit, the constant feeling that she was waiting for something but didn't know what, about quitting her job and the terror and freedom that had come with it, about the night she'd heard his songs on the radio and changed the station because it hurt too much. "I tried to forget you," she admitted quietly. "Tried to convince myself that what we had was just young love, that everyone has that one person who got away. But the truth is, you set the standard. Every guy I dated, I was comparing him to you, to the way you made me laugh, the way you understood my dreams, the way you looked at me like I was magic. It wasn't fair to them or to me." Zack's expression was intense, his eyes never leaving her face. "I did the same thing. Worse, actually. I wrote songs about you and then dated women who looked nothing like you, trying to prove to myself I was over it. Spoiler alert, I wasn't." "So what do we do now?" Jenna asked. "We've established we're both kind of a mess when it comes to each other. How do we move forward without repeating history?" "We communicate. We're honest. We don't let fear make our decisions." Zack slid out of his side of the booth and into hers, close enough that their thighs pressed together. "And we take risks. Like this." He cupped her face, giving her time to pull away, but she didn't. When his lips met hers, it was gentler than the kiss at the party, but no less intense. It tasted like coffee and possibilities, like second chances and new beginnings. When they broke apart, Jenna rested her head on his shoulder. "This is crazy." "The best things usually are." He pressed a kiss to her hair. "Stay with me tonight. Just sleeping, I promise. I just want to wake up and know you're real, that this isn't another dream." She should say no. It was too fast, too soon. But when had she ever been able to say no to Zack Mercer? "Okay," she whispered, "but I'm stealing all the blankets." Deal. The next morning, Jenna woke to sunlight streaming through hotel curtains, and Zack propped up on one elbow, watching her with a soft smile. "Good morning, beautiful. Have you been watching me sleep? Because that's creepy. Only for like 5 minutes. You snore? By the way, I do not." But she was laughing and he was laughing, and everything felt light and easy in a way she hadn't experienced in years. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from Marcus with the day's schedule and a photo attachment. Curious, Jenna opened it and gasped. It was a shot from last night's concert, Zack mid-performance, but he wasn't looking at the crowd. He was looking stage right, where she'd been standing, and the expression on his face was so open, so full of emotion, that it took her breath away. "What is it?" Zack leaned over to look. "Oh, Marcus has been threatening to leak that one, said it would break the internet. Because you're looking at me like I'm the only person who exists. Because you are." He took the phone from her hands, setting it aside. "Jenna, I know it's only been a few days, but I need you to know something. I'm all in. Whatever this is, whatever we're building, I'm committed to it. No more running, no more what-ifs. Just you and me figuring it out together." "Zack." She wanted to tell him it was too soon, that they should be cautious. But the truth was, she felt it too. That pull, that certainty that had been missing for 12 years. "I'm scared." "Me too." He kissed her softly. "But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. So what do you say, Jenna Hayes? Ready to take this leap with me?" She thought about all the reasons to say no, the complications, the logistics, the very real possibility of heartbreak. But she also thought about Sarah's words. Half alive. She'd been half alive for 12 years, playing it safe, taking the practical path. Maybe it was time to fully live. "Yeah," she said, smiling as his face lit up. "I'm ready. Let's do this crazy thing." "Yeah?" He pulled her on top of him, grinning like he'd won the lottery. "You're not going to regret this, I promise. I'm going to make you so happy. You'll forget you ever had doubts. That's a pretty big promise, Rockstar. I'm a pretty confident guy." He kissed her again, and this time there was a promise in it. A promise of tomorrows and honesty and love rebuilt from the ashes of what they'd lost. "Plus, I have great abs. That's got to count for something." Jenna laughed against his lips. "Your abs are acceptable." "Acceptable. Just acceptable." He rolled them over, pinning her beneath him with a playful growl. "Take it back. Make me." As their laughter filled the hotel room and the Seattle morning sun painted everything gold, Jenna realized something profound. She hadn't just said yes to a tour or to rekindling an old flame. She'd said yes to herself, to taking risks, to believing in love, to choosing happiness over safety. And as Zack kissed her breathless, his hands tangled in her hair and his heart beating against hers, she knew with absolute certainty that she'd made the right choice. Later that day, when the photo of Zack looking at her from the stage went viral, with fans speculating about the mystery woman who'd captured their idol's attention, Jenna wasn't scared. She was ready for the chaos, the scrutiny, the adventure, ready to be fully, completely, wonderfully alive. 3 months later, the tour ended with a massive show in New York's Madison Square Garden. Jenna stood side stage, her camera ready, but this time was different. This time she wasn't just the photographer, she was Zack's girlfriend, his partner, the woman he'd dedicated 3 songs to during the show. As the final notes of the encore faded and the crowd gave one last deafening roar, Zack set down his guitar and walked to the microphone. "New York, you've been incredible." The crowd roared again. Before we go, I need to do something. This tour has been the best of my life, and it's not because of the sold-out shows or the great reviews. It's because of her." He pointed to where Jenna stood, and a spotlight swung to illuminate her. Her heart stopped. 12 years ago, I left my hometown chasing a dream. I left behind the best thing that ever happened to me because I was too young and stupid to realize what I had. This tour gave me a second chance, and I'm not wasting it." He walked to the edge of the stage closest to her. "Jenna Hayes, you are my best friend, my inspiration, and the love of my life. Will you marry me?" The crowd erupted, but Jenna barely heard it. All she could see was Zack, down on one knee now, holding a ring that sparkled under the stage lights. Tears streamed down her face as she nodded, unable to speak. He stood, pulling her onto the stage, and kissed her as 20,000 people cheered. When they finally broke apart, both laughing and crying, Zack whispered in her ear, "I told you you wouldn't regret it." "You were right," she whispered back. "Best decision I ever made." As they walked off stage, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next together, Jenna thought about that scared girl who'd almost said no, who'd almost chosen safety over love, practicality over passion. Thank God she'd been brave enough to take the leap, because sometimes the craziest decisions lead to the most beautiful destinations, and sometimes everyone really is left speechless when the rock star appears with his childhood love at the festival. Only this time, the story didn't end at the festival. It was just beginning. What an incredible journey we just witnessed together. Zack and Jenna's story proves that sometimes the universe gives us a second chance at the love we thought we'd lost forever. But here's what I want to know from you. Do you think Jenna made the right choice, leaving her stable career to follow her heart? Would you have taken that leap of faith, or would fear have held you back? And what about Zack? Should he have fought harder for her 12 years ago, or did they both need to grow separately before they could build something lasting together? If you were in Jenna's shoes, standing at that crossroads between safety and passion, which path would you have chosen? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I'm genuinely curious to hear your perspective on this. And speaking of second chances, if this story resonated with you, if it made you believe in love again, or simply entertained you for these few minutes, I have a small favor to ask. We're working toward hitting 500 subscribers, and your support would mean the world. That little subscribe button, it helps us bring you more stories like this one. Stories about real emotions, complicated choices, and the courage it takes to follow your heart. Also, tell me, where are you listening from right now? Are you commuting to work, relaxing at home, maybe taking a late-night walk? I love knowing that these stories reach people in different corners of the world, in different moments of their lives. Share your location in the comments. Let's see how far this story has traveled. Think about Zack's decision to put his heart on the line in front of 20,000 people. That takes guts, right? Would you ever make such a public declaration of love, or would you keep that moment private and intimate? There's no wrong answer here, just different approaches to the same beautiful emotion. Here's another question that's been on my mind. Jenna compared every relationship to Zack for 12 years. Have you ever had that one person who set the standard? That one love that made everyone else pale in comparison? Sometimes our greatest love stories aren't about finding someone new, but finding our way back to someone who always mattered. If you enjoyed this story, if it made you feel something real, hit that like button. It tells me you want more content like this, more stories about second chances, about taking risks, about choosing love over fear. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Join our community. Let's reach that 500 subscriber milestone together. Remember, every great love story starts with someone being brave enough to take a chance. Jenna chose courage over comfort, and look where it led her. What choice will you make today? In your own life, in your own story, are you playing it safe or are you willing to leap? Thank you for spending this time with me, for letting Zack and Jenna's story into your day. Your support, your comments, your subscriptions, they all matter more than you know. They're what keep these stories coming, what keep this channel alive. So one more time, where are you listening from? Drop your location in the comments. Let's build a community of people who believe in love, in second chances, in the power of following your heart, even when it's terrifying. Until next time, remember that the best stories are the ones we're brave enough to live. See you in the next one.